How you doing, guys? Today, just wanted to apologize for not posting a video, I think for 2 weeks. Had a couple things come up. One, hurricane, tropical storm Henri was slated to come through my area. The power company had called like a couple days before the storm and said, prepare yourself for 8 to 21 days with no power. So the winds were supposed to be crazy, so I was preparing for that storm that weekend, or just before that weekend, so I didn't really work on the hood. Then the following weekend, I said, all right, I'm going to dive into getting the hood, more hood content finished. I ended up getting stung by hornets and ended up in the urgent care 2 days afterwards. So let me just show you something. Now, if you don't like hairy legs, or if you're squeamish, why don't you just go ahead and fast forward 20, 30 seconds, maybe a minute into the video. One of the water blisters that formed on my leg from the hornet strikes is right there. I mean, that thing was massive. That thing stuck out a good 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, and when it was popped, it literally looked like Niagara Falls. You could just barely see that little black dot. That's where one of the hornets hit me, and this thing is still oozing, as you can tell, and it's been, 6 days since that happened. So that's part of the reason why I haven't been able to get you a video on this hood. So let's forget about all the bad, let's start focusing on the good, and dive right into the live action. How you doing, guys? Today I am continuing work on my 1955 Wheelhorse Senior fiberglass hood. Well, I'm getting there. It's been a slow process, a bunch of videos, but kind of wanted to show you each part because there was a lot of issues with this hood, as well as there's still a lot of issues with this hood. In the last video, I was able to recreate the lower section of the hood. Obviously, this one is still MIA, so we'll be working on that, or starting to work on that today. The other thing is, as I've been working on this, I've been able to kind of dial in the color match a little bit, or closer than when I started the project. As you can see right there, you can see where I mixed the color into the resin, but from like this vantage point, it almost looks pretty darn good. Which leads me to believe, or is leading me to believe, I don't like this patch at all. This is, I mean, I like the shape of the patch, I like the fit and finish of the patch, but the coloring is really bad. I'd like to try to get it a little closer. Now, this doesn't bother me. That actually looks pretty good, because even for whatever reason, my patch here actually kind of, this is original fiberglass, this is new fiberglass, and you can tell by the matte style, but whatever reason, this really discolored to almost match the original. So I'm happy with that, and this will all be sanded and buffed out, so you won't even see that. I'm real happy with that. I should have tried to do the same thing here, but that's here nor there. It's water under the bridge. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm actually going to grind this down a little bit and then reflow it with resin and with some new coloring to try to get this to look a little bit better, a little nicer. I got those thoughts in my head. I haven't really sold it to myself that I'm going to do it, but definitely thinking about it. And the kind of the mixture that I use down there, I am going to use when I eventually come back here to fix this and get this all straightened out and fill this section in. So with that, let's get some material going and let's get to this project. In my last video, I had a question of what resin do I use, and this is the one I use. I just use standard old school Bondo brand by 3M. fiberglass resin, and even the mat is 3M mat. I do have some real coarse, and then I got the fine. And I'm using the fine for this project because the whole hood is pretty much fine fiberglass mat. Probably not the best material in the world to use, but for what I do, I have never had an issue with this stuff. It doesn't shrink. It stays stable. It sands easy. And, you know, for every 1 ounce of fiberglass resin, you use 10 drips of the hardener. I just use these cheapy stir sticks. I cut them in half with a knife, with a razor knife, so that way you have more. Some corn brushes right there to smear it around, and some mixing cups just to use the mixing cups because one, I don't really measure it. I just kind of eyeball everything and it's fine. And what's nice is once the resin, the leftover resin is hardened, you just squeeze the cup and it pops right out. So you can just keep reusing those mixing cups. After maybe about 20 or 30 mixings, the cup is pretty much shot, but 1 cup lasts you forever. So that's the material that I use. There's probably better brands out there, but for what I do and for the experiences that I've had, it works just fine. So I decided to throw the dice and let's see if we can get this to look a little bit better. So I sanded it down with 80 grit. I by hand and with a little rubber block. You know, you definitely feel that it's lower than, you know, I've lowered this entire section. So hopefully when I just go ahead and put the epoxy across the top of it and it cures, I'll be able to block it down and make it look, you know, shape it real nice and have a fairly uniform coat of red over the top of that mark. And as you can see, I've already started mixing it up. This is probably about 1.5 ounces to 2 ounces of resin. I just take a little bit of red paint, spray it into the cap, and keep adding it until it's, you know, about the color I'm looking for. And this looks fairly well. You know, it looks pretty good. I'll add what I've noticed with the paint in the resin. When I'm adding the hardener, I probably add about 3 to 5 more extra drops per ounce, so about 13 to 14 drops per ounce. So I'll probably put about 15, I'm just trying to do it, probably like 17 drops of hardener in it. Mix it up. It is a little bit waterier or have a water consistency with the extra paint in there, but I'll let it sit for a few seconds, like 30 seconds to a minute. Let it just start to activate. Apply it really quick with the corn brush, and then we'll let it harden up and sand it out. So I went ahead and flowed the patch with some new red resin. It is just starting to kick, which is exactly what I wanted. One thing I learned, or I just kind of tried out and it worked. If you want to save like the corn brush that I use, to usually spread the epoxy around with, just get some lacquer thinner, and just before it kicks, throw it in the lacquer thinner, and that will typically break it up, and you can use the corn brushes over and over again. You get about maybe 6 to 10 uses out of it, and then you can throw the corn brush away. All right, let's let this set up, and we'll do a little sanding. As you can see, 99.97% of the red has been sanded off. That wasn't the plan, but in order to get this nice and straight, as I was sanding, I noticed that the original install of the patch was just not right. I'm sanding and sanding, and it's just not coming straight. But now it's pretty straight. There's a little lumpity bump right there, but the whole hood is lumpity bumpy. So I'm real happy with that. It feels great in this direction. Feels good in this direction all around. If we take a kind of a little bit of a look, it definitely looks the part and is all set to go. You can actually almost see the lumps and bumps in the hood. The other thing too is I started sanding the front of the hood to get all that old finish off and get it down to the original red fiberglass. So that's almost all done too. I didn't do the lower section because I need to fix that first. And that's what we're going to be working on today. We're going to start getting that corner to look like that corner. In order to kind of guide myself from this side to this side, I went ahead and got my big level. I leveled the hood as best I could, roughly, and then basically lined up the level with this edge and made a pencil line right there. So that's the level line. So basically this cuts straight across to that pencil line, which is actually right there. And that is going to be like the starting point or the guide point that I'm going to use in order to set up the piece of copper on this side, so I can kind of make these things both even straight across. So let me go ahead and get that mold or the little piece of copper in place that I'm going to use as the backer. I have my copper backer in place. Now, obviously this doesn't look very good, but I took a couple pieces of copper, bent them to shape out roughly like this. I did a corner one, which I'll show you on the inside here real quick. Now, this is in no means mint. This is just to give me something to build on. So get something roughly in place so that way I can kind of build upon that and then sand it to shape. So the next thing to do here is to go ahead and mix up some epoxy, get some fiberglass mat together. I'll pull it out of the bag that I have over there, cut some pieces, mix them up, and then just basically do what I did over here. Just kind of build this area up enough in order for me to start to sand it in place, or sand it into shape, I should say. So let's get to it. With the rough layer cured, let's go ahead and pull the forms off, and we'll see how this all works. I'm going to do this with one hand, so just hang in there. It's going to be shaky. It's going to be a mess. So let's see what we got going on. There's that. There we go with that, and then we can probably pull this off. We just kind of, whoop. See how that plastic bag just, it doesn't. Oof, boy, we got a real chunk that. Boy, that's a lot that rolled through, but that's fine. It's the corner. We're gonna need to do some work there anyways. This is not gonna come out completely, which is fine. Hopefully we can get this off. So let's get this off here. Sorry about the camera work, but I just want, people always ask me, like, why do you use that piece of plastic bag? That's kind of a dumb idea. Well, this is the reason why. There, comes right off. And now we have a roughed in corner. Now, is it perfect? No. Does it need a lot of work? Yes. Are we semi-straight? I don't know. But as you can see, we do have a corner developed. So let me go ahead and just finish cleaning this up a little bit and maybe knocking it down a little bit with a piece of sandpaper, and then we'll go from there. With some quick rough sanding completed, I do have a couple issues. One is this line, or basically this line right here on this side. It starts off and then it kind of bends and comes this direction. So I'm gonna have to build this area up. The other thing too is this whole corner was a real crash, and I had put some resin in it a long time ago to keep it stable so it wouldn't keep cracking all the way up the hood. But the whole corner area here is a disaster. It's nowhere near as nice as this one was. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to put a couple pieces of mat right in this area, and then I'm going to put some mat across and build it up a little bit over here to bring that line up. So that way I can sand it flush in this direction, sand it flush that way, and get it as close to that as I can on this side. So I'm going to go ahead and mix up some epoxy, clean this up, mix up some epoxy, get some mat, put the mat in, and then we'll sand it out and see where we are from there. The rough patch has been rough sanded, if there's a better way to say that. But as you can see, fairly nice, not 100%. I did cut the excess off with a hacksaw, just like I did in my last video, so I wasn't necessarily going to show you that. You can see where the original fiberglass was all hacked off, and that we've built all this area up. Now, when I look at it, it's fairly straight, but it does dip down a little bit right here. The corner needs to be built up a little bit so I can get that a little sharper, so I can get it closer to this. This is how I got this side done pretty well. Now, when we look at it from a little bit of a distance, sorry about the angle, it's just it's leaning. You say, hey, Vin, this is way longer than that. But we got to keep in mind that all this whole triangle piece was put on. So when we come over to this side, we kind of make an eyeball. So it's going to be somewhere right about in there. And if we take a look at that, I know that's not a good angle, but it should be pretty darn close. So I'm pretty happy with that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put one little piece of mat right here on this corner. I'm going to put a couple of little pieces of mat right here, and then I'm going to coat this whole area again with resin to build it up so I can block it flat. And that should get this line and this line, okay, and this over here also, pretty darn close, like in the 85% range, because I'll need to finish it I'll need to finish all this when I put the next piece in. So I want to get the corner in, I want to get this little in, coat this, sand it, and then we'll come over to the side, and then I'm going to come over to the side and fill all this in, get this all you know, matted up real nice because it's real thin on this piece. And then that's it. Then the corner should be pretty much ready for final sanding. With it 50% roughed in, I'm real happy with it. It's coming out pretty good. As you can see, the hood is fairly straight. I think that corner right there is a little bit higher than this corner, but that we can make small adjustments here and there. I haven't even finished the back side of the hood, so that little tiny bit that it's off, that I'm not worried about it. But if we take a look at it, that's the one that was just done. Here's the one that I'm working on. I'm going to call it 50%. The corner's not quite where I want it to be, but it is getting there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some red resin, get some fine matte, and I'm going to put a couple pieces right along this, along this flat and around this corner. You can see how much I've built this up from the old side, and you can even see a bit more on this side. But we're going to do some red in this area just to get things the things a little closer to this side. And I think that'll be about it. I want to get this done, and then I'll make the little rounds. So let me go ahead and get this resined up with some matte. We'll get it lightly sanded. We'll see how it looks, and then we'll move on, hopefully, to the lower section. So with some sanding, I got it close. It's not right. I do need some, it does need some fine tuning, let's put it that way. So let's just go ahead and show you why I say that. If we look at the lower sections of the hood itself, you can see a big difference between the way this one is angled and the width of the lower section here compared to this side. You can see it's much shallower and the angle is way steeper. So that's not gonna work. I'm gonna have to get in there and fix it. So what I did was I basically took a tape measure and started from here, went right along this edge and measured to this corner. I did exactly the same thing, started right about here, went straight down this corner to try to keep it as straight as possible, and came up with a point right there that this, this corner, the outside corner, should mimic this one. And then I drew a pencil line across. So basically what I need to do is I need to sand from here to the line to make that a little less steep, which will make this wider and also create the corner in a more appropriate area. Now, if I take a straight edge to the best of my abilities here with one hand, and we kind of lay it on the, lay it right there, and then we take a look, that's fairly straight. So I know that if I can get this sanded, this corner sanded to there, and then this edge up to this line, it should look pretty much equal or visually better than it does right now. Now, there's not much I can do with this, meaning the distance from here to here is smaller or shorter than from here to here, and that's just the natural lay of the fiberglass when Wheel Horse did it. So we're not going to try to reconstruct that, but we're definitely going to get this fixed. The other thing too is this edge kind of sticks out a little too much. So once I get this situated, I'll get this in, and that should get each side to look pretty darn close. All right, guys, that's it for this video. Yeah, sorry about it being such a choppy video, but we had a couple issues that we worked through. As always, thank you very much for all your viewership. Thank you for your likes. Thank you for your comments. Please like, share, and subscribe if you could, please. And as always, let's save these tractors, and you have a nice day.